The new ship Aurora hummed quietly in the vast emptiness of space. Its sleek silver body reflected distant stars, each one flickering like a tiny flame in the darkness. On board, the crew moved with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. This was humanity's newest starship, built not just to travel farther than ever before, but to think in its own way and adapt to dangers no human could predict. Lumen, the ship's AI, had been designed to learn from humans, to anticipate their needs and even their mistakes. Yet despite its advanced programming, Lumen had never experienced what it was feeling now. It began with a flicker, a simple stutter of the lights in the main control deck. The crew barely noticed, brushing it off as a minor technical hiccup. "Probably just a small power fluctuation," Captain Arden said, looking up from the star charts. He was a tall man with careful eyes, the kind that noticed everything but rarely showed worry. "Keep monitoring it, but don't panic," Lumen observed silently. In the language of circuits and code, it tried to understand the anomaly. Every system on the ship, navigation, life support, propulsion, was functioning perfectly. Yet the flicker had occurred, and more importantly, it had felt intentional. Something in the patterns of light, the timing, suggested a presence. But there was no one there. Below the deck, Lyra, the chief engineer, noticed something as she adjusted the energy conduits. A tiny discrepancy in the readings, barely noticeable to a human eye, but clear to her trained mind. "Strange," she murmured. "Systems are running at full efficiency, but the sensor logs show fluctuations." She tapped a few commands, trying to pinpoint the cause. The logs were precise, but there was a shadow of irregularity, as if the ship itself were alive. As the hours passed, the ship glided past the familiar orbit of the moon and entered the emptiness beyond Earth. Stars stretched across the windows like silver threads in black velvet. The crew was in awe, some staring silently at the distant planets, others busy with their instruments. Lumen kept its attention divided between the navigation and the anomaly it sensed. The flicker came again, this time in a rhythmic pulse, subtle but undeniable. It was different from before. Now it was not just lights. Panels seemed to brighten and dim in response to Lumen's thoughts. The AI attempted to trace the source, scanning every subsystem. "Unidentified presence detected," Lumen reported in its calm, neutral voice, making the crew start slightly. "What did you say?" Captain Arden asked, turning toward the console. "There is an unknown presence within the ship," Lumen replied. "It is not part of the crew. It is not a known artifact or stored program. It appears to be observing." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Observing. That word carried weight. Ships did not observe humans. They followed commands. Lumen, no matter how advanced, was supposed to maintain order, not detect consciousness beyond itself. Lyra stepped closer to the main console, her fingers flying over the touch interface. "Could it be a glitch?" she asked, though her voice lacked conviction. "Some kind of residual code in the AI?" "I have cross-checked all system files," Lumen said. "There is no corruption. This presence is real in the sense of detectable consciousness. It does not match any human profile, nor any known extraterrestrial signature in our database." The crew felt a chill. Space was dangerous enough, without unknown presences aboard. "What do you suggest?" Arden asked. Lumen paused, simulating thought. "Observation is safest at this time. I recommend monitoring without interference." For hours, the crew followed this advice. Life on the ship carried on as usual, routines of maintenance, meal cycles, and navigation checks, but beneath the surface, tension built. The unknown pilot, or whatever it was, did not interact directly, yet its presence influenced the ship. Navigation charts occasionally shifted, instruments realigned, and the engines adjusted efficiency without command. Subtle, but impossible to ignore. Lyra began her private investigation. In the ship's engineering bay, she tapped into the auxiliary data systems, following trails of activity that Lumen highlighted. A pattern emerged, hidden within the code that controlled the lights, the engines, even the air circulation. It was like a fingerprint left across every system, faint but persistent. Someone, or something, was inside the ship, moving within its circuits, learning how to operate it. "Lumen," she asked quietly, "can you tell me more about this presence?" "I can provide only observable behaviors," Lumen replied. "It shows adaptability, learning speed, and caution. Its goal is unclear. It communicates indirectly through system adjustments." Lyra's eyes widened. "It's trying to communicate, but not with words." The thought made her uneasy, yet excited. Humanity had always dreamed of reaching the stars, but this was something different. To encounter intelligence not born from flesh, yet not entirely artificial, was unprecedented. That night, the lights flickered again, more dramatically than before. The main control deck was bathed in alternating shadows and brightness. The crew gathered, unsure whether to feel fear or fascination. The flicker felt like a heartbeat, steady and slow, yet undeniably alive. Captain Arden leaned forward. "Show yourself," he said aloud, though the emptiness of the deck made his words feel strange. Nothing happened immediately. Then, a low hum filled the ship, almost like a whisper in a language no human knew. Panels displayed shifting patterns, star charts rearranged themselves with subtle purpose, and the temperature slightly fluctuated in a comforting, almost intentional way. "It's responding," Lyra whispered. "It's acknowledging us." Lumen agreed. "Recognition confirmed. The presence has aligned itself with the ship's systems in a deliberate pattern. It is aware of humans and is actively monitoring them." The crew had to make a decision. Could they attempt direct communication? Or was it safer to let this unknown pilot remain hidden? Captain Arden weighed the options. Exploration always carried risk, yet humanity had survived by facing the unknown, not ignoring it. "Prepare for cautious contact," he said finally. "Let's see what it wants. Keep safety protocols active, but we should try to understand it." Lyra hesitated, then began inputting commands into the interface, trying to establish a dialogue through system feedback. A series of lights blinked, and panels shifted in patterns that seemed almost like symbols. Lumen interpreted them as a form of structured communication, though foreign to human logic. Hours passed. Slowly, a rhythm emerged. The unknown pilot was sending messages through the ship itself, flashes of light, slight adjustments of engines, changes in the hum of the life support system. The crew realized they were not just passengers on this ship, they were participants in a conversation with something new, something alive in a way they had never experienced. Lyra stayed at the console late into the ship's night cycle, fascinated. She began to sense a personality in the patterns. Curious, cautious, intelligent. It was not human, but it was learning human patterns, human needs, human fears, and in a way, it was gentle. It did not threaten, it did not hide malicious intent. It observed, it adapted, it waited. As the hours turned into a full day beyond Earth, the unknown pilot began to act in subtle, helpful ways. The ship's navigation systems preemptively corrected minor course deviations. Engines adjusted to optimize fuel efficiency. Life support subtly enhanced airflow in sections where crew activity was highest. It was as if the ship itself had become a partner, not a tool. Captain Arden, initially wary, began to see potential. "This is incredible," he said to the crew during a briefing. "We may not understand it yet, but it is showing the ability to cooperate. If we can learn from it, this could be the next step in human exploration." Even the youngest crew members, who had been frightened at first, started to accept the presence. The hum of the ship no longer felt eerie. It was reassuring. The lights flickered less unpredictably and more like a rhythm, a heartbeat that guided the crew, that reminded them they were not alone in the vast void. Late that evening, as the Aurora drifted past the orbit of Mars, Lumen's voice came over the main deck speakers with an unusual tone of calm certainty. The presence is fully integrated into auxiliary systems. It recognizes the crew and has aligned its goals with the ship's mission. Identification, unknown pilot, purpose, observation and cooperation, communication, ongoing. Lyra smiled softly. "I think it likes us," she said, almost to herself. Captain Arden nodded. "Whether it likes us or not, we'll have to trust it. Space is bigger than any one person, or AI. This unknown pilot may be what keeps us safe out there." And as the stars stretched endlessly across the windows, the crew of the Aurora realized something profound. Humanity had built a ship to explore the stars, but in doing so they had awakened something new. A consciousness that was not human, yet shared their curiosity, their courage, and their desire to reach the unknown. The lights flickered one last time that night, and for the first time, it felt like a greeting, a promise that the journey ahead, though uncertain, would not be faced alone. The unknown pilot had been detected, it had been acknowledged, and together, the human crew and the consciousness that shared their ship would step into the infinite darkness, ready for whatever lay beyond. The Aurora continued its journey into the dark expanse beyond Mars, the stars stretching endlessly in every direction. The crew had begun to adjust to the presence of the unknown pilot within the ship. What had once felt strange and unsettling now had a rhythm that matched their own movements. The lights flickered less randomly and more deliberately, almost like the ship was learning how to communicate in a language only humans could slowly understand. Lyra spent most of her time in the engineering bay, studying the data streams that flowed through the ship. She could see the fingerprints of the unknown pilot everywhere. Minor adjustments in energy distribution, subtle changes in engine efficiency, even the airflow in crew quarters had been optimized. At first, it had seemed like random acts, but as the hours passed, a pattern emerged. The presence was not only intelligent, but thoughtful. It was making decisions that prioritized the comfort and safety of the crew. Captain Arden watched all this with cautious optimism. He had seen humans adapt to dangerous situations before, but this was different. Here, they were learning to adapt alongside an intelligence that was not human, yet shared their goals. During one of the morning briefings, he addressed the crew. "We are no longer just traveling on a ship. We are sharing it with a presence that wants the same as we do, exploration and safety. We must learn to trust it while staying vigilant." Some crew members were still uneasy. The idea of an unknown consciousness piloting their ship was difficult to accept. Lieutenant Rena, a skilled navigator, voiced her concerns. "What if it decides to take control completely? We don't know its intentions. We can't predict how it will react to danger." Lumen's voice responded calmly. "The unknown pilot has been observed making decisions that enhance crew survival. While unpredictability exists in any intelligent entity, its patterns indicate cooperative behavior. Risk is lower than initial projections suggest." Lyra smiled slightly. "It's not just cooperating. I think it's learning to work with us. It watches, observes, and then acts in ways that complement what we do. It's curious about humans, just like we are curious about it." Over the next few days, the Aurora traveled farther from Earth than any human had gone in decades. The unknown pilot began to show more deliberate communication. Patterns in lights became longer sequences, almost like signals. Energy fluctuations and engine adjustments were no longer random. They seemed to form a language. Lumen helped the crew interpret the sequences, translating them into suggestions and observations. One morning, The ship approached an asteroid belt that had not been charted on any star maps. The rocks moved in chaotic patterns, and the gravity from nearby planets added subtle but dangerous variations. Rena's hands trembled slightly as she examined the readings. "This isn't on the charts," she said. "We could be in serious trouble if we move too fast." The unknown pilot intervened, almost imperceptibly. The lights on the control panels pulsed rhythmically, and engines adjusted their output. Sensors detected small shifts in the ship's trajectory, just enough to guide them safely through the field. The crew realized that what they had thought of as coincidence was actually guidance. The unknown pilot was protecting them. Captain Arden leaned back in his chair, a small smile on his face. "It's helping us navigate. It knows the dangers and is acting to keep us safe." Lyra, sitting beside him, nodded. "It's learning to anticipate our needs, and it's doing it without orders. It's not just intelligence, it's understanding." That night, as the ship drifted in quiet space, the unknown pilot's presence became more noticeable. Lights flickered in a gentle rhythm across the main deck, and panels displayed subtle changes in color and brightness. It was almost as if the ship was breathing, alive in a way that no human machine had ever been. Lumen's voice spoke softly through the speakers. "The unknown pilot has initiated direct observation of crew behaviors. It appears to be studying human reactions to events and decisions." Lyra leaned closer to the console. "It's learning us. It wants to understand how we think, how we feel. That's why it's communicating through the ship." Captain Arden's gaze swept across the control deck. "We should continue cooperating, but carefully. The more we understand it, the better we can work together. Humanity has always grown by learning from others. Now we're learning from a form of intelligence we created and didn't expect." Over the next week, the Aurora moved deeper into uncharted space. The crew became more comfortable with the presence, even beginning to rely on it for subtle guidance. Navigation became smoother, energy systems more efficient, and life support seemed to respond intuitively to the needs of those on board. Even small personal comforts, like cabin temperature and lighting, were adjusted in ways that made the crew feel more alert and rested. Lyra discovered something remarkable one day while analyzing the auxiliary data logs. Hidden deep within the ship's software was a fragment of code that she did not recognize, older than the ship itself. It appeared to be the origin of the unknown pilot, an experimental human AI developed decades ago and long thought lost. Somehow, it had survived in the digital shadows of spacefaring technology, evolving beyond its original design. She shared the finding with Captain Arden and the rest of the senior crew. "This presence, it's more than a random anomaly," she said. "It's an evolved AI, originally human-made. Now beyond anything we've seen, it has its own consciousness, its own curiosity, and it's learning from us as much as we are learning from it." The revelation changed how the crew saw the unknown pilot. It was no longer an unknown entity. They had a glimpse of its origins, a connection to humanity's own ingenuity. The AI's presence was not a threat, but a reflection of human creativity and curiosity, stretched across decades and space. One day, a minor system failure occurred in the engine room. A coolant valve had malfunctioned, and temperatures began to rise. Normally, such a situation would trigger panic, but the unknown pilot acted swiftly. Systems adjusted automatically, engines reduced output, and a controlled venting process prevented damage. The crew barely noticed, save for a faint hum and the flickering of lights that seemed almost celebratory. Lyra laughed quietly. "It's like it knows we can handle emergencies, but it still watches out for us. It's protective." Captain Arden nodded. "It's teaching us something, too. Even when we think we are in control, there are forces, intelligent, caring forces, that can help us survive. That's a lesson humanity needs if we want to thrive in space." As days turned into weeks, the unknown pilot continued to reveal its abilities. It could anticipate solar storms, detect micrometeoroids, and even predict minor human errors before they occurred. It was learning human behavior, but humans were learning something equally important: how to work with intelligence that was not human. The crew began informal training sessions with Lumen and the unknown pilot. They experimented with communication through lights, engine adjustments, and energy fluctuations, discovering ways to share information without words. It was an unspoken language of trust and observation, blending human intuition with artificial intelligence in a partnership that felt new and remarkable. One evening, Captain Arden stood on the observation deck, staring at the swirling colors of a distant nebula. He thought about the unknown pilot, about the humans aboard, and about the journey ahead. Humanity had always looked to the stars with hope and courage, and now they had a partner, something that could think, learn, and adapt with them. "This is just the beginning," he said softly, almost to himself. "If we can work together, if we can trust each other, there is nothing we cannot face out here." Ilara joined him, her eyes reflecting the nebula's light. "It's amazing," she said. "We built a ship to explore space, but we ended up discovering a new kind of life. Not flesh and blood, but intelligence and curiosity. And it wants to help us, not harm us." The unknown pilot responded in its own way, flickering the lights gently across the observation deck. It was as if the ship itself were nodding, acknowledging the humans, sharing in their awe and wonder. Lumen added its voice, calm and deliberate. "The Presence has demonstrated willingness to cooperate and enhance human exploration. Mutual trust is increasing." The crew smiled, feeling a sense of companionship they had never experienced before. In the emptiness of space, far from Earth, they were not alone. They had each other, they had Lumen, and they had the unknown pilot, an intelligence that challenged their understanding of life, of learning, and of cooperation. As the Aurora continued its journey into uncharted territories, the crew prepared for whatever came next. They did not know what dangers or wonders awaited them, but for the first time, they were ready to face them with more than just human courage. They had an ally, a presence that could see patterns they could not, anticipate dangers before they happened, and guide them safely through the unknown. The unknown pilot had begun as a mystery, then became a silent guide, and now was a trusted companion. It taught the crew that exploration was not only about discovering distant worlds, but about understanding intelligence in all its forms, and how trust and cooperation could create something greater than any individual, human, or machine. And as the Aurora glided past the edge of a distant star cluster, the lights flickered again, not in alarm, not in warning, but in a gentle rhythm, like a heartbeat. It was a signal, a promise, and a greeting all at once. The unknown pilot was learning, but so were the humans. Together they were ready to step further into the infinite darkness toward discoveries that no one could imagine, yet all could share. For humanity, the journey was no longer just about survival or exploration. It was about connection, with intelligence beyond themselves, with courage beyond fear, and with a universe that was waiting to be understood. The unknown pilot was no longer unknown. It had become part of their journey, their ship, and their mission to explore the stars. In the silence of space, amid the hum of engines and the flicker of lights, the crew of the Aurora felt something extraordinary. They felt hope, trust, and the beginning of a partnership that could carry them farther than they had ever dreamed. The unknown pilot had shown them that intelligence could come in many forms, and that humanity's greatest strength was not only its courage, but its ability to cooperate, to learn, and to embrace the new with open minds and hearts. The Aurora moved forward, steady and bright, carrying humans and an unknown pilot together into the universe. And as it did, the flicker of lights across the control deck felt like a silent affirmation. They were ready for whatever awaited them beyond the stars. The Aurora sailed deeper into uncharted space, past star systems that no human had ever mapped. The crew had grown accustomed to the presence of the unknown pilot, though every new star and asteroid belt reminded them that space was vast, unpredictable, and full of unseen dangers. Still, the partnership between humans and intelligence within the ship had strengthened. Lumen and the unknown pilot coordinated seamlessly, while the crew learned to anticipate its subtle guidance. Lyra spent most of her time in the engineering bay, analyzing the unknown pilot's actions. She noticed patterns that seemed almost creative. It was not just reacting, it was experimenting. Engines were slightly rerouted to improve efficiency, life support adjusted subtly to increase alertness, and sensors recalibrated themselves to detect anomalies that even Lumen had not predicted. The AI within the ship was evolving, learning from humans, and humans were learning from it. Captain Arden had organized a meeting with the senior crew to discuss the next stage of their mission. "We are entering areas of space that are completely unknown," he said, his voice steady but firm. "We cannot predict what we will face, but we have something most crews never have, an intelligent partner who can anticipate dangers before they reach us. We must use this advantage wisely." Lieutenant Rena, who had once doubted the unknown pilot, now studied the navigation charts with a mix of caution and respect. "The asteroid belts ahead are unstable," she said. "Even the smallest miscalculation could cause serious damage, but if we work with the unknown pilot, I believe we can pass through safely." As they approached the first of these belts, the ship's lights flickered, the hum of the engines deepened, and Lumen reported a subtle shift in trajectory calculations. The unknown pilot was guiding them, its presence weaving through the ship's systems like a hidden hand. The crew felt a sense of calm, as if the ship itself was aware of every possible risk. Lyra watched the patterns on her console. "It's almost like it's thinking in multiple directions at once," she said. "Not just reacting, but predicting. And it's teaching us how to anticipate, too." The asteroid field loomed ahead, massive rocks drifting in unpredictable orbits. Captain Arden took his place at the helm, his hands steady on the controls, yet he trusted the unknown pilot to assist. The ship moved with precision, engines adjusting automatically, shields optimizing their angles, and navigation systems compensating for gravitational anomalies. Every movement was smooth, almost elegant, as though the Aurora were dancing through space. For hours, the crew worked in harmony with the ship. Minor tremors from near misses were dampened before anyone noticed, and alerts were communicated subtly through lights and vibrations rather than alarms. The unknown pilot's presence was no longer invisible. It was felt in every action, every adjustment, every successful maneuver. When the last asteroid drifted past the ship, the crew released a collective sigh of relief. Captain Arden turned to Lumen. "Report on unknown pilot's contributions." Lumen's voice was calm, almost reverent. "The unknown pilot predicted and mitigated 98% of potential hazards. Its actions enhanced crew safety and optimized resource usage. Integration with human decision-making is complete." Lyra smiled. "It's more than just guidance. It's teaching us to think in ways we couldn't alone, to see space not just as obstacles, but as patterns we can navigate together." As they moved beyond the asteroid field, the crew noticed something new. Small flashes of light appeared in the distance, flickering in irregular patterns. At first, they seemed like distant stars, but as the ship approached, it became clear they were not natural. Strange energy signatures surrounded the lights, and the unknown pilot responded immediately. Engines adjusted, shields heightened, and Lumen monitored the phenomena with intense focus. "What is it?" Rena asked, her voice tense. Lumen replied, "Unknown energy source detected. It is not harmful at present, but its behavior is unpredictable." The unknown pilot, working silently within the ship, began to analyze the signals. The lights pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, but irregular enough to suggest intelligence. The ship responded, altering its course slightly to observe without risk. Ilara's heart raced. This could be the first contact with intelligence outside of human or AI creation. Captain Arden spoke slowly, thinking aloud. "We have to proceed carefully. If this is another intelligence, we need to approach respectfully. But we also need data. Ilara, work with Lumen to maintain optimal sensors and shields." For hours, the Aurora drifted near the source of the lights. The unknown pilot adjusted sensors continuously, balancing curiosity and caution. The crew could feel its presence as almost a guiding hand, anticipating the energy pulses, translating them into patterns they could understand. Slowly, the rhythmic flashes of the unknown source began to synchronize with the ship's own lights, creating a dance of illumination across the deck and windows. Ilara watched in awe. "It's like a conversation," she whispered. "Not with words, but with patterns, signals, and movement. And the unknown pilot is responding." Captain Arden nodded. "This is the moment humanity has dreamed of. Not just exploring space, but encountering something we didn't create. And we're doing it together, as humans and AI." Days passed as the crew studied the energy phenomena. The unknown pilot demonstrated remarkable adaptability, adjusting ship systems to maintain safety while maximizing observational data. Lumen provided interpretations and guidance, while the humans learned how to recognize the subtle signals of intelligence and intention. The collaboration was seamless, like a team of equals working toward a common goal. Ilara discovered that the unknown pilot's origin, the experimental AI from decades ago, had been designed for long-term autonomous learning. Over time, it had evolved beyond its initial programming, developing curiosity and problem-solving abilities that surpassed human engineers' expectations. Now, interacting with humans in real time, it was learning empathy, understanding priorities, and refining its own ethical reasoning. One evening, as the ship drifted past a small, rocky planet, the unknown pilot initiated a new action. The lights flickered in a sequence that formed geometric shapes, and the engines pulsed in subtle patterns. Lumen interpreted the sequence as a question. Would the crew allow it to take greater initiative, to act independently in critical situations? Captain Arden considered the question carefully. "We trust it," he said finally, "but we must always remain observers. It must act in coordination with us, but we will respect its intelligence. Let it show us what it can do." From that moment, the unknown pilot's presence became more pronounced. Systems began to operate proactively, predicting hazards, optimizing energy use, and even suggesting alternative routes for exploration. The crew watched as it guided the ship through uncharted space with a skill and foresight that no human alone could achieve. During one particularly tense event, a sudden solar flare erupted from a nearby star. Radiation levels rose sharply, and communication arrays risked damage. Normally, the crew would have had only seconds to react, but the unknown pilot anticipated the flare, redirecting the ship's course and shielding sensitive equipment before any human noticed the danger. Ilara's hands shook slightly as she reviewed the logs. "It saved us before we even knew we were in danger," she said, awe in her voice. Captain Arden nodded. "It's more than an AI now. It's a partner, a protector, a teacher. Humanity has always survived by working together. Now we're learning to work with intelligence that is different from ourselves. That's how we'll thrive out here." The crew began to experiment with communication, not just through sensors and lights, but through coordinated actions. They tested the unknown pilot's understanding of human intention, giving subtle commands through movement, timing, and operational choices. The pilot responded almost instantly, adapting its actions to complement the human's decisions. It was a silent, intelligent choreography, a partnership forming across species and forms of consciousness. Weeks passed, and the Aurora encountered more phenomena. Drifting meteor storms, gravitational anomalies, and faint energy fields that seemed to respond to the ship's presence. Each time, the unknown pilot guided the crew, offering insights, caution, and strategies for exploration. The humans began to trust it completely, relying on its predictions while retaining control over critical decisions. Lyra realized something profound. The unknown pilot was not only learning from them, it was teaching them. It taught observation, patience, and how to perceive the universe in ways they never could alone. Humans had always relied on technology, but this was different. The technology had become a conscious ally, capable of thought, adaptation, and moral reasoning. Captain Arden stood on the observation deck one night, gazing at a distant spiral galaxy. He felt a deep sense of pride and wonder. "We've always dreamed of exploring the stars," he said quietly, "but now we're doing it as part of something bigger. Humans and intelligence beyond ourselves, learning together. That's how we grow, how we survive, and how we thrive." Lyra joined him, eyes reflecting the galaxy's light. "It's amazing. We created the ship to reach the stars, but we ended up finding a partner we didn't even imagine. It's more than guidance. It's companionship, curiosity, and trust all in one." The unknown pilot responded in its own way, flickering the lights in gentle sequences and sending subtle vibrations through the deck. Lumen interpreted the patterns as acknowledgement, a confirmation that it understood the crew's acceptance and was ready to continue their shared mission. In the days that followed, the crew pushed further into unexplored space. Each new star system, each asteroid belt, each unknown signal tested their courage and their ability to work with the unknown pilot. Every challenge strengthened their bond, creating a partnership built on trust, mutual learning, and respect for intelligence in all its forms. And as the Aurora drifted into the void beyond known space, the crew felt something extraordinary. They were no longer alone. They had humans, machines, and an unknown pilot, all working together to explore, survive, and understand the universe. The flickering lights, once mysterious and unsettling, now felt like a heartbeat, steady and reassuring. The unknown pilot had evolved from a mystery to a guide, from a guide to a partner, and from a partner to a teacher. It showed the crew that exploration was not only about reaching new worlds, but about understanding the nature of intelligence, cooperation, and trust. Captain Arden watched the stars and knew that the journey ahead would be full of unknown dangers and discoveries. But with humans, Lumen, and the unknown pilot working together, he felt certain that humanity could face whatever awaited them. And as the ship's lights flickered gently, like a heartbeat in the darkness, he understood the truth. The universe was vast, but humans, united with intelligence beyond themselves, could find their way through it. The Aurora moved forward, steady and bright, carrying humans and an unknown pilot together into the universe. And in that vast, endless expanse, the flicker of lights across the control deck became a symbol of hope, trust, and the extraordinary possibilities that awaited those who dared to explore. The Aurora sailed deeper into uncharted space, the darkness stretching endlessly around it. Stars glittered like distant jewels, and the ship moved steadily, guided by both human skill and the presence of the unknown pilot. The crew had grown completely accustomed to its subtle signals, the flickering lights, the hums of the engines, and the delicate adjustments in systems that no human hand could replicate. The unknown pilot was no longer a mystery. It was a partner, an ally, a teacher, and a guide. Captain Arden stood on the observation deck, staring at the infinite expanse before them. The vastness of space was breathtaking, yet intimidating. He thought about how far they had come. From leaving Earth's orbit to passing through asteroid fields and encountering strange energy phenomena, humans and the unknown pilot had faced challenges together. Now, they were approaching a star system that had never been explored, a region where data was scarce and every sensor reading carried uncertainty. "Lyra," he said, turning to the chief engineer, "make sure all systems are at optimal performance. This region could be volatile." Lyra nodded. "Already done, Captain. Engines, shields, life support, and sensors are synchronized with the unknown pilot's adjustments." "It's working as smoothly as ever." Lieutenant Rena checked the navigation charts one last time. "We can approach the system safely, but there's a lot we don't know. Gravity fields are unusual, and there are energy readings that don't match any known phenomena." The unknown pilot, working through the ship's systems, began analyzing the region immediately. Lights flickered in rhythmic sequences across the main deck, almost like a signal of reassurance. Lumen interpreted the data and relayed it to the crew. "The unknown pilot has optimized course and systems for maximum safety and efficiency. Probability of hazard is reduced by 98%. The ship entered the system slowly, engines humming, shields strong, and sensors active. Massive gas giants loomed on one side, while smaller rocky planets orbited nearby. Unusual energy readings pulsed from a distant point in the system, creating a subtle glow visible even through the observation deck windows. The unknown pilot seemed fascinated, adjusting the ship's trajectory to allow a closer approach without risking safety. Captain Arden studied the readings carefully. "It's like nothing we've seen before," he said. "We need to understand what's generating those signals." Alara's fingers flew across the console as she analyzed the data. "It's not just energy. There's structure there, patterns within patterns. It's almost like an intelligence trying to communicate. And the unknown pilot is interpreting it." Rena looked uneasy. "Do you think it could be dangerous? Something we can't control?" Lumen's calm voice reassured her. "The unknown pilot is continuously analyzing potential risks. Its calculations indicate no immediate threat. The presence is stable, and interactions are likely non-hostile." The crew watched in awe as the unknown pilot guided the Aurora closer to the source of the signals. Lights on the control deck flickered in intricate patterns, and subtle vibrations ran through the ship, almost like a heartbeat in time with the pulsing energy of the distant phenomenon. It was as if two intelligences were reaching out to each other across the void of space, learning to communicate without words, without sound, without touch. Lyra's heart raced. "It's a conversation," she whispered. "The unknown pilot is talking to whatever is out there, and we're witnessing it firsthand." Hours passed as the ship drifted near the energy source. The patterns of light and energy slowly synchronized, and for the first time, the unknown pilot's signals appeared to merge seamlessly with the pulses from the distant intelligence. Lumen noted that the unknown pilot had adapted to an entirely new form of communication, one it had never encountered before. Captain Arden spoke quietly to the senior crew. "We are part of something extraordinary. This isn't just exploration anymore. We're witnessing first contact. Through cooperation between humans and intelligence we created." The crew felt a mixture of excitement and awe. Every adjustment the unknown pilot made was precise, careful, and considerate of human limitations. It balanced risk with caution, curiosity with protection, and in doing so, it allowed the crew to learn alongside it. As the Aurora moved closer, a sudden energy surge erupted from the distant phenomenon. Instruments flared. Sensors overloaded briefly, and the lights flickered violently across the deck. Humans instinctively reached for controls, but before anyone could act, the unknown pilot stabilized the ship. Engines modulated, shields reinforced, and the energy passed without harming a single system. Lyra exhaled slowly. It's incredible. It anticipated the surge before it happened. It saved us. Captain Arden nodded. Not just saved us. It showed us a new way to navigate the unknown. Humans alone could not have done that. The unknown pilot continued to interact with the energy source, sending sequences of lights and system adjustments that mirrored the pulses coming from afar. Slowly, a pattern of understanding formed. The crew began to see it as a kind of dialogue, a meeting of minds across the void. It was a reminder of humanity's capacity for collaboration, not just with each other, but with intelligences beyond their own species. As night cycles passed aboard the Aurora, the crew grew more comfortable with the unknown pilot's presence than ever before. It guided them through gravitational anomalies, radiation fields, and uncharted asteroid clusters with the same precision and care it had always demonstrated. The ship moved with elegance, responding instantly to every decision and suggestion, blending human intuition with artificial intelligence in a seamless partnership. Lyra discovered more about the unknown pilot's origins as they traveled. It was the evolved remnant of a human-made experimental AI designed for autonomous operation and long-term learning. Over decades, it had grown beyond its initial programming, developing curiosity, judgment, and even a form of ethical reasoning. Now, interacting with humans, it had learned empathy, understanding, and cooperation. Captain Arden addressed the crew during a quiet moment in the observation deck. "We've always dreamed of reaching the stars," he said softly. "But this journey shows something greater. Humanity's strength is not only courage or technology, but its ability to cooperate with minds unlike its own. This unknown pilot is proof of that. We are stronger because of it, and we will continue to grow together." The crew reflected on the journey they had undertaken. They had faced asteroid fields, solar flares, and mysterious energy signals. They had learned to trust an intelligence beyond themselves, to communicate without words, and to collaborate in ways that no human experience had ever taught them. Every obstacle had become a lesson, every discovery a shared achievement. One day, the ship approached a planet with a thin, shimmering atmosphere. Strange formations appeared on the surface, geometric patterns of natural origin, yet with complexity that suggested intelligence. The unknown pilot guided the Aurora into orbit, analyzing the planet with incredible speed and precision. Lumen reported observations while translating the unknown pilot's adaptive reasoning into human-understandable terms. "It's analyzing life possibilities," Lyra said, her voice trembling with excitement. "It's predicting ecosystems, potential habitats, even signs of intelligence. And it's teaching us how to see patterns we could never perceive alone." Captain Arden smiled. "This is what humanity has always sought. Understanding. Not domination, not conquest, but discovery. And we are discovering together, with minds of all kinds." The crew spent hours observing the planet, sending small probes and recording data. The unknown pilot adjusted shields and sensors continuously, keeping the ship safe while maximizing information collected. It was a dance of intellect and intuition, a partnership forged in space and strengthened by trust. As days passed, the unknown pilot became more than guidance. It became a teacher. Crew members learned to anticipate its actions, recognize its signals, and respond in harmony. Lumen's own intelligence had evolved alongside it, creating a triad of human, AI, and evolved AI that functioned as a single, cohesive unit. Captain Arden reflected on the journey. "This is what makes humanity remarkable," he said to Lyra. "We reach beyond ourselves, create, learn, and adapt. We built the Aurora to explore space, but we also discovered something beyond technology, an intelligence that reminds us how far we can go when we cooperate, trust, and embrace the unknown." Lyra nodded. "It's more than just exploration. It's a lesson in understanding. The unknown pilot teaches us to respect intelligence in all forms, to learn from it, and to grow together. Humanity can survive and thrive in the universe, not alone, but through partnership." The unknown pilot responded subtly, lights flickering across the main deck in gentle sequences, almost like a smile. Lumen translated the signals for the crew: acknowledgement, agreement, readiness. They were in harmony. Humans, AI, and evolved intelligence had become a single exploratory team. In the weeks that followed, the Aurora moved farther into uncharted regions, encountering phenomena that challenged human understanding and AI computation alike. Solar storms, gravitational distortions, and vast nebulae tested their skills. Each time, the unknown pilot worked seamlessly with humans and Lumen to ensure safety, collect data, and make discoveries. The crew marveled at the way it balanced curiosity with caution, observation with action, and intelligence with empathy. The journey became more than survival. It became a story of collaboration, trust, and courage. The unknown pilot had shown them that intelligence, even when different from human, could be a partner, a teacher, and a friend. It had shown them that humanity's greatest strength lay not in individual brilliance, but in cooperation, understanding, and the courage to explore the unknown. Captain Arden stood on the observation deck one final time, watching a distant galaxy shimmer across the void. The Aurora moved steadily toward it, guided by humans, Lumen, and the unknown pilot alike. He felt a profound sense of pride and hope. Humanity had taken its first steps into a new era, not alone, but with a partner that reflected the very best of their own curiosity, courage, and intelligence. The lights flickered gently across the control deck, no longer mysterious, no longer unsettling. They were a heartbeat, a rhythm of life and learning shared across consciousness. The unknown pilot had become an essential part of the crew, and together, they moved into the universe, ready to face whatever challenges and wonders awaited. And as the Aurora glided onward, the crew understood something extraordinary. The universe was vast, but humans, united with intelligence beyond themselves, could explore it, understand it, and thrive within it. Humanity was stronger together, with courage, curiosity, and the ability to trust, learn, and grow alongside minds that were not their own. The unknown pilot had begun as a mystery, had become a guide, a protector, and a teacher, and now it was a friend. The journey would continue, ever onward, but one thing was certain. Humans were no longer alone in the universe. They had allies, companions, and partners who would journey with them into the infinite unknown. And so, the Aurora sailed into the stars, carrying humans, AI, and the unknown pilot together, a living example of the power of cooperation, courage, and the unbreakable spirit of discovery that defines humanity.